You're making a choice. You're picking a side. Stop kidding yourself. Let's talk. I am your poetic haiku host, Kim B. Miller, the first African American poet laureate for Prince William County, Manassas, and Manassas Park, Virginia, award winning spoken word poet, facilitator, speaker, teaching artist, author. Let's get into today's subject. So, just a reminder for those of you just tuning in or new to this podcast, this is 17 minutes long. Why 17 minutes? I'm a lover of haiku. And since I love haiku and 17 syllables are what you need to make a haiku, then yes, I figure I could do a podcast in 17 minutes. Now, on to the subject. So some of you think by not making a choice, you like the fence, like your middle name is Fence, like you're Mr. or Mrs. Switzerland, or you straight down the middle, or you're neutral. Even when you don't pick a side, you pick a side. Even when you don't pick a side, you pick a side. When you sat there and watched someone lie on someone else and you didn't speak up, you picked a side. I know for some of you this is going to be new, so I'm going to repeat it a couple of times along the way because I really want you to get it. Some of you are sitting there watching someone lie on someone else, and you're like, "Well, while I disagree with what they said, I don't want to get involved. That's not who I am. I didn't say it." Whatever lullaby you have to sing to yourself to make it real does not make it true. You had a choice to speak up. You don't have to be loud when you speak up, but saying something is making a choice. And not saying something is making a choice. So if you said, well, I just didn't want to get involved, but you want everybody involved when someone is telling an untruth on you, lie, misspoken, whatever phrase you want to use, because I know some of you are so great on semantics. If you want someone to speak up when you are the victim of the mistruth, then you should be speaking up when it's someone else. You don't get to play fence monitor when it's someone else, but want everybody dodging for your grace and your honor when it's you. What about the people whose honor you just disrespected? What about the people's honors you just overlooked? Because, well, you know, I'm not really one, I'm not confrontational. Oh, really? I've seen you doing some confrontation quite well when it suited you, when it was about you. But when it's about someone else, I'm a fence. I'm not saying fight everybody's battles because sometimes I have to put these disclaimers out because you'll say what I didn't say. Should you be fighting everybody's battles? No. Have some people put themselves in positions that aren't the greatest positions and sometimes they're misunderstood? Yes. But, but if you know it to be untrue, whether that person is saint or sinner, shouldn't you be setting the record straight? Wouldn't you want them to set the record straight if it was you? We have to stop this mentality of, well, if it's me, I'll speak up. Everybody else, well, I can't be. So. Fair is fair, isn't it? Oh, oh, that's just for other people. Oh, okay, got it, got it. Choices to stand up for another human being are difficult. I'm not saying this is easy, but I've been in rooms where people had the opportunity to speak up and didn't, and then regretted it. Now, is this about regret? No, this is about doing what's right and finding a way you feel comfortable speaking up. It doesn't have to be calling someone a liar, it could just be my recollection of that is different. I'm sorry, that's not the understanding I got from that conversation. And if the person still pushes back, find a comfortable stance that you can live with. But repeating a lie because you don't want to buck against the loud one in the room, because you don't want to buck against the person who always has something to say, because you don't want to be the person that that person speaks about. Right now, they're targeting somebody else. So you just keep quiet and let them focus on that person because they're not focusing on you. Even if you don't rock the boat, you can still end up in the water. Comfortability is one of the things that is killing people silently because they're staying in their comfort zone. They're not going to say anything to someone who's aggressive. They're not going to say something to someone who is loud, and that person knows it. And they've been walking all over certain people for years. And then here you come willing to stand up for yourself or someone else. And all of a sudden, you're the problem person. All of a sudden, you're the person who's too much. All of a sudden, you're the extra person. When did truth become extra? Now, again, disclaimer, because some of you don't hear me clearly, I am not saying go someplace and start fights or start arguments. Absolutely not. What I am saying, if you're in a room and someone is not being treated fairly, isn't it time for you to step up and do something that you feel comfortable doing? Like you'd want someone to step up if you were the one who was being pursued, picked on, bullied, whatever language you want to use. We can't expect everyone to help us and we're never willing to help someone else. Find your comfort zone. Practice the way you feel comfortable. But you can't keep sitting silence. Silence is complacency. Silence is an accomplice to the person doing it, in my opinion. And for those of you who say, well, not really, blah, blah, blah. If your child was being bullied and there was a teacher there and they did nothing, you wouldn't say, oh, well, the teacher probably didn't feel comfortable. You'd be like, well, what are you doing? You didn't see my child getting bullied? Why didn't you speak up? I didn't feel comfortable. You'd be like, what are you talking about? So again, I get is a different relationship from child to parent and we're more protective of our children. I get all that. But some of us are not speaking up under any circumstance. Any circumstance. Some of us are not even speaking up for our kids because we don't want to get in that confrontation. We don't get in that argument. We don't want to get in that discussion. And again, I'm not talking about bullying people or starting fights and fist fights and all. None of that is necessary to get your point across. If fighting solved everything, which it doesn't, if screaming solved everything, which it doesn't, this is about learning how to communicate what bothers you, and not thinking that it's someone else's job to defend what you hold dear. And again, this is not talking about fighting. This is talking about finding a way to find your voice and to speak up about those things that bother you. Are you willing to speak up, find your comfort zone in a way of approaching someone that you feel comfortable, non aggressive, and speaking up for you or someone else? And if your answer is no, why? Why not? Why is someone else's comfort level more important than yours? Why is someone else's perception more important than yours? Because some of this is not out and out the other person lying. Some of this is simply the person has a filter meaning they've been through certain things in life. So when they hear something, it resonates different for them. And sometimes if someone said to them, you know, your perception is fascinating. I don't disagree with it, but here's what I got out of that conversation. You could be opening that person up not only just to a different perspective, but to the fact that they have a filter that they're not even aware that they're using. We have an opportunity to teach people stuff every day, a choice. And some of us run to the fence quicker than we run to our own love for self. Defending yourself does not have to involve yelling, cursing, or demeaning. None of that. Defending yourself is giving a perspective of you that the other person may not be aware of. And if they are aware of it and they keep overlooking it, they may do it because you've given them the comfort level to think that that is okay. Meaning your point doesn't matter because you're not going to say anything. If I totally misrepresent your point, you're not going to speak up for you. So therefore, I can say whatever I want to say that you said, and you'll go with it because you're not going to correct me. You're not going to edit what I say. You're just going to go with it. Does that make it right? No. No. Because some people are introverts and that's just not their comfort zone. And I'm not asking you to turn into an extrovert. I'm asking you to find your way of saying what you need to say in a way that's comfortable for you, practicing it so that it's comfortable for you. The more you do it, the more you'll feel comfortable doing it. It's a hard choice to make. I know for some of us it's easy because some of us are like, well, you're never going to get, today ain't the day and I'm not the one, I'll never be the one. I get all that and the bravado and the slogans and blah, blah, blah. For some people, they just slogans and they don't really speak up for themselves. Some people, that's just not their wheelhouse. And I'm not asking you to jump into the deep end of the uh, of the you got the wrong one pool, but I'm asking you to dip your toe in the water a little bit into the I have rights to pool and finding a gentle way of expressing the I have rights to point. It's a choice to get your toe in that water. And for some of you, it's a frightening choice. But once your toe touches that water, you will feel a sensation of pride within yourself. If you start to practice it and the first time you back you up, the first time you say, excuse me, I'm not sure that I recall it happening that way. it brings about a strength and a feeling that I really can't explain, that you have to experience for yourself. Self-pride, self-esteem comes from you choosing you sometime, you choosing truth, you getting off the fence sometimes. Some people never go on the fence, and for you, it may be for you to try to find a less aggressive way of stating it. Because everything doesn't have to be the aggressive way either. Everything doesn't have to be, I'm right, I was born right, and I'm going to be right. No, the right authority is annoying. Nobody wants to hear how right you are every time a conversation comes up. You can be wrong too. Just because you're willing to speak up and you're willing to speak up first does not mean you're right. Maybe that's why people avoid some conversations with you, because they know they're just going to hear how right you were, how you knew it all in advance, how you saw it coming when you know you didn't. So we have the two ends of the spectrum here, and both ends can meet a little bit further in the middle. Don't wonder why people don't want to talk to you if you're never gracious. Don't wonder why people don't want to talk to you if everything you talk about is someone else, because they're starting to wonder, well, dag, when are you talking about me? Everything in life is a choice. Choose what's best for you, and don't drag everybody down because they don't do things the way you would do it. They may be living in a comfort zone. They may be living with filters and a life experience that you couldn't even imagine. Doesn't mean that they're, ridiculous, or whatever derogatory term you want to use. Could just mean that they're hurting. If you can't walk in their shoes, don't try them on.